It was like the 13th Amendment here. They had to, like, these people were making much less. Suddenly they're making much more. At the same time, Honeywell has done remarkable stuff in making these places more automated. So I wonder whether the automation doesn't offset, at least for Amazon.
To the extent that the inside the warehouse, I mean, they've changed, I think, fairly dramatically over the last even 4 or 5 years in terms of, as you say, the number of robots that are doing things that weren't done. Now, you still need somebody to pick things. They still can't do that.
Right.
But, in terms of covering 13 miles in a shift, I think that has changed to some extent. We are still talking, though, about, well, worldwide, Amazon has 575,000 employees.
Holy
in this
cow.
case, we're talking about 250,000 employees that will be affected by the $15 minimum wage and another 100,000 seasonal employees. Important to point out earlier this year, as Carl, I mean, I remember you talking to McMillan about this some time ago at Walmart, but they're at $11 now, Walmart, still largest employer in the country, with 1.5 million associates in the United States. And a lot more of them are making closer to that number than are the 575,000 overall at Amazon, making closer to the $15.
Right. The Amazon news does include some workers in London, and we keep looking at these sort of tentpole moments in wage growth in retail.
Yes.
David mentions Walmart's move, which wasn't to 15 back in 2015, but it did get them to 10, 11. This is what McMillan said at the time.
They're at 11 now.
Yeah.
Changes that we're making include structural changes in the stores, wage increases, training programs, and this company, as you probably know, has always been a people business. It's a people business today, and it will be tomorrow. And so our associates, their pride in the company, the ownership that they take, those things are vital to running a good retail business, and today we're investing in them, and we want them to know how important they are.
Do you expect your competitors to match? Stocks like Target and Kroger are down today. Some believe because investors expect that they will have to match.
I think the competitive marketplace works, and they'll do what's best for their business.
Interestingly, not at the top of their release, was Amazon's line that we will advocate for Congress to raise the federal minimum wage. Hashtag Amazon 15. Welcome
to the world of full employment. If you want employees, you're going to have to pay. When you get, we talked about this last week when I was out in California. Everybody's willing to hire people who just get out of prison, who are for white collar. Why? Because white collar, particularly for marijuana, seems wrong. You incarcerate people.
The president mentioned this in the Rose Garden yesterday.
Yeah. You know how many employees previously would sort of not be able to hire somebody because they tested positive for marijuana, which seems, and it still continues to be a problem for other drugs, from what I hear from some large employers in terms of bringing people on that you might want.
Right, and look, I'm sure there are people out there who say, well, wait a second, how widespread is this? I know half a dozen companies that are saying, look, we are hiring people who were incarcerated for no reason because they're good employees and they'll show up and they're loyal.
Okay,
very loyal. There's a pizza company I deal with that only hires.
But back to the macro, I mean, 2.9% wage growth, we were applauding it, but it still doesn't seem, it's only moving up at the same rate as inflation.
You're dead right. And when we hear from you, Johnson, they're passing on all the costs. There's not a lot of resistance. But for the auto companies, there's huge resistance. And that's why their profit margins are awful. That's why it's interesting, Tesla. Listen to Ron Barron all morning, and Tesla doesn't seem to have any of these problems. But when you pass on the costs at Ford or GM, it just makes it so that the profit margins shrink even more. What's interesting is the housing profit market. So we're going to hear from Lennar October 3rd tomorrow. The housing companies are passing on, and their costs are going down, but nobody cares because they're the Fed's raising interest rates.
Final thought on this Amazon. No, it is important to also note they're phasing out giving these employees RSUs, giving them stock. They're no longer going to be doing that. Instead, they like the immediacy, they say, of cash. Who can blame them? Previously, they'd given them stock that would vest in, 2-3 years or more.
Although NPR has a stat that the Amazon worker would need to work for 3 weeks, 133 hours to buy one share.
Right.